what is so important to know about mom guilt is that it always stems from a story that we have in
Mm.
mind. So it's not that we forgot to pick up our kid at daycare or at, kindergarten. It's our thought about that, right? It's the thought that I'm a terrible mother.
Uh-huh.
And that thought, that story about whatever happened is where we create the exhaustion, but it's also within our power to change that story or to look at ourselves or the situation different. So a great example, if we did forget or we were late to pick up the kiddo at daycare and they say, Mom, you forgot about me. I hate you, right?
Uh.
Let's be dramatic. Like the kids are. You forgot about me. I hate you, right? We can either think to ourselves, I'm a terrible mother, or we can think to ourselves, like, I'm a great mom for trying to balance all of this and showing my kid that I can be a strong business owner and I can be there for them, right? So all that to say that it's the sentences in our brains that create that emotion of guilt. And we have the power to change those sentences or to understand and being aware of those sentences so they have less power over us.
Yeah. And I think also like because something very similar happened to me with my daughter. She is doing Nutcracker
Mm-hmm.
shows. And somehow I've never done this before, but somehow I mix up the dates.
Yeah.
So we missed one of her show and it was a big deal. And first I didn't want to tell her. I said, you
Mm-hmm.
know what, I'm just gonna go smoothly and try to, change the subject and, so that she will go to the next show and everything. Then I said, you know what, I'm just gonna tell her, admit that I forgot to mix up the show dates and
Yeah.
she missed one show. And first, like you said, her reaction was a little bit dramatic. She's like, "Oh my God, you ruined my whole
Life.
ballet thing." And I was feeling terrible already.
Yeah.
I was even more meaner to myself in my own head. But then I said, you know what? People make mistakes. You know, I made a mistake. I'm so sorry about it. It's not like I wanted to hurt you. I want you to, miss that show and I did that mistake. I'm so sorry about it. I'm gonna double check everything and be more on top of it. And I said, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So I think it's also important to accept that there was like a mistake done or like something that we forget, and explain it to the child as, people make mistakes, mom make a mistake. And
Mm.
in that case, I think it's also very important to ask for help, like a good communication about your situation. And when we are talking about working moms, we usually talk about the job part of it and the kids part of it. But I think there is also another component, a very important, the spouse part of it, right? It
Mm-hmm.
takes a village to raise a kid. It takes a village to have a business up and running, and it takes.
Yeah.
So I think you need to have a good partner. You can
Mm-hmm.
be separated from your partner, then you will build your own system around it and maybe have another support system. It can be your parents, it can be your nanny. I don't know. So, do you have any components about this in your program?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the one thing too, I do want to just give extra kudos to what you just said or highlight it again, because so one thing I tell or I've talked about in my workshops is that every emotion has a gift to it. So even
Mm.
guilt has a gift. Like we see the negative connotation of it, which is like self-loathing and hatred and regret maybe. But then there's also this gift, which is the humbling being able to say like, whoa, I feel guilty, which means something's going on that maybe I need to ask forgiveness for. And you did that beautifully, right? And it's such a good modeling for our kids, right?
Mhm.
Adley's one, so he doesn't talk yet. But it's so beautiful to be able to say, I'm sorry and I make mistakes.
Mhm.
And for even if the kid does not seem to understand in that moment, our actions speak louder than words. Well, and this includes words, right? Because you're
Uh-huh.
apologizing.
Uh-huh.
And that is something that is modeled to them from now on, right? They'll know
Mhm.
that and I grew up in a generation where my parents didn't apologize. It was sort of
Oh,
like
of course. No.
yeah, it was like the parents are right. It's because I
Uh-huh.
said so, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there's sort of this power differential and love my parents so much, but it is a generational
Yeah.
thing. And I think that this, next generation of parents are really taking on this where we show up as humans and we show our kids that they can be humans as well. They can make mistakes, they can apologize, and that really is the work of being human.